The enigma of Solomon. Imagine a king who had everything: unparalleled wisdom, limitless riches, and a reign that left its mark on history. Yet, amidst all this splendor, he lost his most precious treasure, his connection with God. This is the fascinating and tragic journey of Solomon, a man who began his life with a humble heart but was consumed by the traps of power and vanity. His legacy is a living warning. Even the greatest wisdom can be eclipsed by misguided choices. Let us explore 7 crucial moments of his story and uncover the lessons it still has to teach us. When Solomon ascended to the throne of Israel, he faced a monumental challenge: governing a populous and complex nation. As the son of David, his reign carried the weight of great expectations, and the people looked to him for guidance and stability. However, unlike many rulers who relied solely on military might or political strategies, Solomon sought something deeper. Recognizing his youth and inexperience, he humbled himself before God in prayer. He did not ask for the usual desires of kings: wealth, power, or the death of his enemies. Instead, he prayed for wisdom to lead his people with discernment and justice. To continue receiving my videos, you must subscribe to the channel right now, or you may never see my videos again. This heartfelt request moved God profoundly. In response, the Lord not only granted Solomon unparalleled wisdom but also promised him wealth, honor, and a long life on the condition of his continued faithfulness. This divine encounter marked a turning point in Solomon's life and set the foundation for what could have been an exemplary reign. It showcased a heart initially aligned with God's will, a rare combination of humility and self-awareness in a leader. Yet, this pivotal choice also came with significant responsibilities and risks. How would Solomon wield such immense wisdom without succumbing to pride or temptation? As his reign progressed, Solomon's wisdom became legendary. He demonstrated extraordinary insight in his judgments, as seen in the famous case of the 2 women disputing the maternity of a child. His decision to suggest splitting the baby in 2 was a strategic move that revealed the true mother, astonishing his people and cementing his reputation as a just and discerning king. Word of his brilliance spread far and wide, attracting dignitaries and scholars from distant lands, including the Queen of Sheba, who traveled great distances to witness his wisdom firsthand. She left Israel in awe, bearing gifts and singing praises of his intellect and the glory of his kingdom. However, Solomon's wisdom was a double-edged sword. While it elevated him to heights of fame and influence, it also exposed him to challenges that tested his character and devotion to God. The accolades and admiration of the world could easily inflate his ego, and the temptations that came with power were ever present. Though his request for wisdom was noble, it placed him on a path where each decision carried profound spiritual consequences. The story of Solomon's early reign serves as a timeless lesson. Even our best choices, when guided by pure intentions, can lead to unforeseen trials. The greater the blessing, the greater the responsibility to remain grounded in faith and humility. Solomon's journey reminds us that seeking God's guidance is just the beginning. Staying faithful to his will is the true challenge. King Solomon's reign is one of the most celebrated periods in biblical history, marked by unparalleled wisdom, prosperity, and spiritual milestones. Yet, his legacy is a complex tapestry woven with both divine brilliance and human frailty. The wisdom of Solomon is legendary, extending far beyond the borders of Israel. His judgments and proverbs became the gold standard for discernment and understanding. The story of the 2 mothers disputing over a child is a striking example. By proposing to divide the child, Solomon exposed the real mother, whose love was selfless enough to sacrifice her claim for the child's life. This act was not just clever but deeply empathetic, showing how wisdom must often blend intellect with compassion. This wisdom also translated into governance. Under Solomon, Israel became a thriving kingdom, a hub of trade, culture, and diplomacy. His renown attracted emissaries from distant lands, such as the Queen of Sheba, who came bearing gifts to witness his famed intellect firsthand. Solomon's ability to answer her riddles and showcase the wealth and organization of his kingdom solidified his reputation as a ruler blessed by divine insight. Solomon's greatest architectural and spiritual achievement was the Temple of Jerusalem. This structure was more than an engineering marvel. It was the physical manifestation of Israel's covenant with Yahweh. Designed with meticulous attention to divine specifications, the temple became the spiritual heart of Israel, a place where heaven and earth intersected. Grandeur reflected the glory of God, serving as a reminder of His presence and power. The temple also played a critical role in unifying the Israelites, consolidating their worship around a single, sacred site. Its completion marked a pinnacle of Solomon's reign, symbolizing the fulfillment of promises made to David, Solomon's father, and the establishment of a kingdom rooted in divine law. However, Solomon's story is not solely one of triumph. His insatiable quest for knowledge and experience led him to embrace foreign alliances, cultures, and practices. While these connections enriched Israel economically and intellectually, they also introduced idolatry and moral compromises. Solomon's many marriages to foreign princesses, often formed to secure political alliances, became a significant spiritual stumbling block. These unions brought with them the worship of foreign gods, diluting Israel's commitment to Yahweh. Over time, Solomon himself succumbed to these influences, building altars to other deities and allowing practices that contradicted the law of God. The life of Solomon serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale. His wisdom dazzled the world, but it also revealed the limits of human understanding when detached from divine guidance. While knowledge and discernment are gifts from God, their pursuit can become a snare if it leads one away from the Creator. Solomon's story reminds us that true wisdom is not merely about understanding the world, but about aligning oneself with the will of God. As Ecclesiastes, traditionally attributed to Solomon, poignantly reflects, "Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Ecclesiastes 12 verse 13. Solomon's legacy challenges us to evaluate the sources and purposes of our own pursuits. In a world enamored with information and innovation, it is easy to mistake knowledge for wisdom. Yet, Solomon's life teaches that wisdom divorced from spiritual truth can lead to ruin. His story also underscores the importance of humility. Despite his unparalleled gifts, Solomon's downfall came from a reliance on his own understanding rather than on God's commandments. For modern readers, his life is a call to seek wisdom that not only enlightens the mind, but also nourishes the soul and honors the Creator. In Solomon's dazzling wisdom lies a dual message: the potential for extraordinary impact when aligned with God and the peril of straying from that alignment. Over the years, the abundance of wealth brought comforts and temptations. Solomon accumulated gold, silver, and goods in unimaginable proportions. His palaces were adorned with luxury, and his lifestyle far exceeded what was necessary for a godly king. This opulence did not come without a cost. To maintain his achievements, Solomon imposed heavy taxes on the people and used forced labor, which generated discontent among his subjects. His pursuit of wealth was no longer an expression of divine blessing but of personal vanity. He forgot that God had called him to serve, not to be served. By placing his trust in riches, Solomon gave up what truly mattered, a genuine relationship with God. His possessions became a deadly distraction, distancing him from his spiritual mission. The man who once led with humility now lived as a symbol of excess. His story teaches us that wealth can be a powerful trap, diverting us from the right path. Solomon's reign is often remembered for its unprecedented wealth, wisdom, and grandeur, but it also serves as a cautionary tale of how even the wisest can fall. One of the most striking aspects of his downfall was his excessive pursuit of relationships, particularly through marriages that were politically motivated yet spiritually damaging. Solomon had an extraordinary number of wives, 700, and 300 concubines, many of whom were from foreign nations. These marriages were not simply romantic unions but strategic political alliances designed to secure peace and alliances with surrounding kingdoms. While these relationships may have strengthened Israel's geopolitical position temporarily, they introduced profound spiritual vulnerabilities. Many of Solomon's wives came from cultures that worshipped foreign gods, such as Ashtoreth, a Phoenician goddess, Chemosh, a Moabite deity, and Molech, associated with the Ammonites. These women, with their distinct religious customs, influenced Solomon to deviate from his wholehearted devotion to the God of Israel. He not only permitted but actively facilitated idol worship, erecting altars and temples to these deities. This was a direct violation of God's commandment forbidding the worship of other gods, Exodus 20 verses 3-5, and prohibiting Israelites from marrying foreign women to avoid spiritual corruption, Deuteronomy 7 verses 3-4. Solomon's actions had far-reaching consequences for Israel. As the king, he was not merely a political leader but also a spiritual example to the nation. His idolatry sent a message to the Israelites that tolerating, and even participating in, the worship of false gods was acceptable. This set a dangerous precedent, weakening the nation's covenant relationship with God and paving the way for deeper spiritual and moral decline in subsequent generations. The Bible describes Solomon's heart as divided, 1 Kings 11 verse 4. Despite his unparalleled wisdom and earlier devotion, he allowed his desire to please his wives and maintain political stability to overshadow his loyalty to God. His divided heart serves as a stark reminder that divided allegiances can lead even the most devout astray. His failure illustrates the dangers of compromising spiritual convictions for worldly gain or personal relationships. Solomon's story offers timeless lessons. It highlights the power of relationships in shaping our spiritual journey, either drawing us closer to God or pulling us away. It also underscores the dangers of idolatry in all its forms, whether it manifests as literal worship of false gods or as placing anything above God in our lives. For modern readers, Solomon's downfall invites self-reflection. What foreign influences might be leading us away from God? Are we forming alliances, whether personal, professional, or social, that dilute our faith or convictions? Are we prioritizing human approval over divine obedience? Idolatry not only distanced Solomon from God, it led him to a state of spiritual emptiness. He, who once experienced God's presence so intensely, now wrote in Ecclesiastes about the vanity of all he had achieved. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity, he lamented, reflecting on the futility of his earthly accomplishments. Solomon realized too late that the distance from God had left him spiritually impoverished. His wisdom, which was meant to be a tool of service, became a burden. He found no lasting meaning in his wealth, power, or pleasures. His heart, once dedicated to God, became a battlefield between the divine and the worldly. This part of his life is an invitation for us to reflect. What are we prioritizing in our lives? Solomon warns us that nothing, except God, can fill the existential void of the human heart. In the final years of his reign, Solomon faced the consequences of his mistakes. God announced that due to his unfaithfulness, the kingdom would be divided after his death. And so it happened. The glorious Israel was split into two parts, never again achieving the splendor of Solomon's days. Solomon's legacy became a mix of glory and tragedy. He, who had everything to be the greatest king in history, ended his life as a cautionary example. God remained faithful to his promise, but the man who began well could not finish his journey with the same integrity. His story teaches us that initial success does not guarantee a triumphant end. Perseverance in faith and obedience is essential to fulfilling God's calling in our lives. Solomon's story serves as a reflective mirror for our modern times, highlighting the timeless struggle between spiritual devotion and worldly distractions. In a world where wisdom is often equated with intelligence, power, and material success, his life reminds us that these pursuits, without God, lead to emptiness. The profound irony of Solomon's story lies in the fact that the man who possessed divine wisdom allowed himself to drift away from the very source of his understanding. Today, modern idolatries have taken forms that are both subtle and pervasive. Money, fame, and the pursuit of pleasures have become the gods of our era. Like Solomon, we often find ourselves caught in a relentless chase for achievements and possessions, believing they will fill the void within us. Solomon's tragic mistake, placing more trust in his accomplishments than in his relationship with God, is a cautionary tale for anyone navigating the complexities of modern life. This caution is especially relevant in an age dominated by instant gratification and social validation. The search for recognition, the lure of wealth, and the obsession with personal success can easily overshadow our spiritual priorities. Solomon's ultimate realization, as expressed in Ecclesiastes, is a powerful reminder: vanity of vanities, all is vanity. These words echo through the centuries as a sobering truth that nothing, not wisdom, power, or riches, can satisfy the soul apart from God. Yet, Solomon's story is not merely a tale of caution, it is also a call to action. It challenges us to reassess where our hearts truly lie. Are we dedicating our lives to what is eternal, or are we investing in what is fleeting? The lessons from his life encourage us to seek the fear of the Lord, which is described in Proverbs as the beginning of true wisdom. This reverence for God, manifested in obedience, faith, and a humble heart, is the key to a fulfilled life. As we reflect on Solomon's life, we are faced with a profound challenge. Where is your treasure, and where is your heart? If there is one enduring takeaway from his story, it is this: achievements without spiritual grounding are ultimately meaningless. True purpose and fulfillment come from aligning our lives with God's will. Solomon's life may have ended as a cautionary tale, but it leaves us with a roadmap to prioritize what truly matters. May we learn from his journey to seek the eternal over the temporary, ensuring that our legacy is one of faithfulness to God. If you have reached this far, comment like this below: I have reached the end. Now 2 more videos will appear on your screen. You can continue watching my videos, show your support, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.